Hey, what's up, everybody? Taylor Sharp here, and welcome into the Huddle Up Podcast. If you've seen this show before, you know we cover all things NFL. If you're new here, welcome. We cover anything NFL, top stories, off the field drama, game reactions, top storylines, playoff predictions, you name it, we got it right here on the Huddle Up Podcast. And what I want to hit on today is NFL adjacent. Almost NFL, if you will, because I want to talk about Bill Belichick. And I want to talk about Bill Belichick's new head coaching job with the North Carolina Tar Heels. It's been the talk of all national sports shows for really the last week and a half now, since the news broke that North Carolina's administration was interested in bringing Bill Belichick on board. Look, we know Bill Belichick, right? A coaching legend. Some say the greatest NFL coach of all time. 6 Super Bowl rings. 9 Super Bowl appearances, thanks to Eli Manning and Nick Foles that he didn't go 9 for 9. But he's an absolute legend, right? I mean, he formed the Patriots and built that franchise from the ground up with Tom Brady. It's still the most dominant NFL franchise in my lifetime, at least. Did the Kansas City Chiefs get there? Maybe. I don't think so, but there's a chance they certainly could. But Bill Belichick's going to try his hand at the college ranks. Now, my initial thought was, I don't like it. However, I'm intrigued. Let's kind of go over the pros and cons, and then at the end of things, I'll explain to you why I don't like it. If you're on one side of the argument, a lot of people have said they dislike it, and here's why. The dislikes is you're bringing in a head coach that has never coached at the college ranks as far as being a head coach anywhere. He has never been a college head coach, and he's 73 years old. You're bringing him into college football raw after never doing it before, when college football is as important, as complex, and as ever-changing as it has been in really the history of the sport. How is Bill Belichick going to do that? Because not only does he have to learn on the fly what it takes to be a college head coach, he also has to constantly adjust to the ever-changing landscape of college football. You have NIL now. You have the 12-team playoff. You have the transfer portal. How is all of that going to work? How is Bill Belichick going to make that happen for the North Carolina Tar Heels? The pros for it, you could say, okay, well, Bill Belichick was in the NFL for a number of years, and I just laid out his resume, right? 9 Super Bowl appearances, 6 Super Bowl wins. He had success with both the New England Patriots and the Cleveland Browns. He can flat out coach. That's true. He can flat out coach football. And you can argue he's coming into college football when college football is as similar to the NFL game as it ever has been. Remember, not only was Belichick head coach of the New England Patriots, for a number of years, for most of his time in New England, he was the GM as well. He knows how to build a roster. He's dealt with salary cap before. How's he going to deal with North Carolina's NIL budget? It's very similar in those two ways. The pay for play that everyone likes to call it. You got to dish out NIL dollars to the top prospects in the transfer portal every single offseason. It's not that dissimilar to NFL free agency. Now, you don't have, black and white contracts that you're signing, although a lot of schools do. But Bill Belichick has been there before, right? Again, you keep going back to the GM thing. He could kind of be the GM and head coach for the North Carolina Tar Heels. Also, who is he going to bring in with him? The one thing I will say about Bill Belichick, I wholeheartedly believe he is going to have an excellent defense. He did it every year in New England. Even after Tom Brady left and that franchise fell apart, they were not the same dominant team that they once were. He always had a solid defense. He just couldn't get the quarterback situation right. If you remember, he had Cam Newton for a year. He had Mac Jones, and Mac Jones' rookie year, they actually go to the playoffs. They lose in the first round, but they do go to the playoffs. And then it kind of unraveled from there because you could never get stability at the quarterback position. Who is he going to bring in on the offensive side of the ball? I think he's going to have a good defense. Does he bring in his son Steve? What happens there on the defensive side? I think his defense is going to be fine. He knows how to scheme. Again, as different as the college and NFL games are together, Defensive football is defensive football. If you can scheme in the NFL, you can scheme in college. He can do it with the best of them. He's one of the best X's and O's coach I've ever seen, especially on the defensive side of the ball. What Belichick's going to need to do is find a really good offensive coordinator. Who can you bring in that can hold down that side of the ball? You can focus on recruiting. You can focus on defense and let the young guy or whoever you bring in run the offense, do the play calling and all that. Second thing he's going to have to do is bring in a really good quarterback out of the transfer portal. Now, the problem for Bill Belichick, a lot of the top talent in the transfer portal already knows where they're going. Jackson Arnold is out there, and he's technically still available, but it looks like he's going to go to Mississippi State. Their freshman phenom, Michael Van Buren, already entered the transfer portal before Jackson Arnold even signed with Mississippi State. So it looks like that's almost a done deal. Auburn's got a new quarterback. Darian Mintz is in the transfer portal, but it looks like he's going to go to Duke. Speaking of Duke, Malik Murphy. That's maybe my first call if I'm Bill Belichick. You know he can play. He's been in college for a number of years. He had a really good season at Duke, and all he's got to do is go right across the street from Duke to Chapel Hill and play for the Tar Heels. And he's an exciting player, right? He can run a little bit. He's a dual threat. He can make some things happen for you offensively. Because Belichick's going to have success here in a hurry, right? Because he's 73 years old. How is he going to relate to these kids? By having success early. Now, we looked at this with Deion Sanders, right? And, Belichick has the advantage of, hey, I've been a coach in the NFL. Deion had never done it. However, he was at Jackson State. He jumps up a level to Colorado. Now, Deion had a really bad first year going 4-8. But the reason he was able to have a mulligan, he's in his mid-50s. He's not 73. He has a star quarterback that happens to be his son who's on the team. He can relate to these players a lot well. He's flashy. He's a flamboyant guy. Bill Belichick's none of those things. He's going to have a tougher time relating to these college players unless you have success early on. Also, another thing in Bill Belichick's favor, a lot of these kids, this day and age in college football, they don't really care about college football anymore. As big of a fan as we all are of college football, the players really aren't. The players are looking at this as a stepping stone and a way to develop to get themselves and their game to the next level. Bill Belichick knows what it takes to be successful in the NFL. That's going to be his biggest recruiting pitch because realistically, he's never going to win a national title at North Carolina, right? My biggest pause, and ultimately the reason I do not like this hire, is because you pretty much hired the same guy you just fired. And let me explain, because Mac Brown is not on the level, at least championship-wise, of a Bill Belichick. But Mac Brown, a number of years, he was dominant at Texas. He won a national championship. He played for another national championship in 2009 with Colt McCoy. We remember that. He was 13-1. McCoy gets hurt halfway through the first quarter, and Texas still hangs in there with Alabama. A lot of people, myself included, believe that if McCoy plays in that game, Mac Brown has a second national championship at Texas. But once McCoy left that program, Texas fell apart. And they go 13-1 that year. He goes 5-7. Okay, 8-5, 9-4, 8-5 again, and then he's out the door. So it wasn't a complete collapse, but they were never able to regain that magic that he had under Vince Young, that he had under Colt McCoy, because he couldn't get the quarterback situation right. Pretty similar to Bill Belichick without Tom Brady. Bill Belichick could not get that quarterback situation figured out once Tom Brady took off and took his talents out to Tampa Bay. Then he gets hired by North Carolina. His second stint at North Carolina, mind you. His first year, 2019, he goes 7-6. Okay. He wins the Military Bowl. Second year, 2020, 8-4. Then he goes 6-7. And in 2022, 2023, you're like, okay, Mac Brown's finally figured it out. He goes 9-5 and 8-5. Now, he lost both of his bowl games, but he got there. He did a good job. Then he degresses this year to 6-6. Again, he can't get the quarterback situation figured out. So Mac Brown, when North Carolina hired him, looked like a head coach who was older than most, whose best years of football were likely behind them, who struggled to get the quarterback situation figured out after your stud at Texas leaves, and he had mixed results at North Carolina due to the same thing. Bill Belichick comes in, 6-time Super Bowl winner. However, he's 73 years old. He's actually a year older than Mac Brown. They replaced a 72-year-old with a 73-year-old. He wins 6 Super Bowls with Tom Brady, but He went 4 years without Tom Brady in New England. He only had one winning season, and that was rookie year Mac Jones. And Mac Jones was never able to replicate that. As a matter of fact, he got worse every year he was in New England. How is that going to be any different with Belichick? Again, you had an old guy who was past his prime, who couldn't get the quarterback situation figured out, and you could see that before North Carolina hired him. Bill Belichick, you bring in an old guy whose best football is likely behind him, who couldn't get the quarterback situation figured out in New England after Tom Brady left. You essentially hired the same coach. I'm not saying that automatically means Bill Belichick's going to fail at North Carolina. However, when your program is trending in a certain direction and you have to make a change, make a change. All you did was give an NFL legend a shot instead of Mac Brown, but you essentially copied and pasted. I would have went in a completely different direction if I'm North Carolina. I'm going young. I'm going offensive-minded. Somebody that can get the quarterback situation figured out, and they didn't do that. Again, I think Belichick's actually going to be able to recruit better than most people think. I just don't know X's and O's wise, relating to the players, retaining his players. He'll do a good job of getting talent from the portal. How much can he retain that talent in and out throughout each offseason? I think it's going to be a struggle for him. I think he'll show flashes. I think he'll upset some people that he probably shouldn't at North Carolina. But I don't expect them to win anything of any significance. All right, look, that's going to do it for this episode of the Huddle Up Podcast. Not super NFL heavy. We're kind of NFL adjacent, but we did talk about NFL legend Bill Belichick. Tune in next time. We'll recap some of the big NFL games for this coming weekend, and we'll hit you, as always, with the top storylines across the National Football League. Thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe.